Jonah.
What does it mean to be super bad?
Being an actor can have its ups and downs. On the one hand, you get recognized everywhere you go. On the other hand, you get recognized everywhere you go. No more casual, low-key midnight trips to the grocery store to grab a tub of ice cream. You're famous now. Sorry. Another one of the many downsides to being an actor is getting recast. Maybe it's because you weren't right for the part.
It's me. It's your Chuck.
Maybe it's scheduling difficulties. Whatever the reason, it happens more often than you'd think. Some recastings are obvious, but some are a bit less noticeable. Let's take a look at some of them, shall we?
Now this is a story all about how my...
The Fresh Prince of Bel Air is one of the most beloved sitcoms in the history of the entire universe. Why in the world is it not streaming everywhere, you ask? We don't have a good answer for you. If it was up to us, we'd make sure the Fresh Prince of Bel Air was streaming on every possible platform 24/7, so everyone could experience its brilliance anytime they wanted. But alas, as much as we might wish it, it is not up to us. Nevertheless, you can always flip on the TV, if you're still into that whole cable TV thing, and happen upon an episode. You don't even have to try that hard. Aside from the excellent writing and punchy jokes, The Fresh Prince of Bel Air works so well because it has an excellent ensemble cast. We've got Will Smith leading the pack with the likes of the late great James Avery as Uncle Phil, Alfonso Ribeiro as Will's uptight dancing cousin Carlton, and Karen Parsons as spoiled brat Hillary. But there's one cast member you might not have noticed was replaced about halfway through The Fresh Prince of Bel Air's run. That would be none other than Vivian Banks herself. In the first 3 seasons, she was portrayed by Janet Hubert Whitten. By season 4, Hubert Whitten was replaced by Daphne Maxwell Reid. But what prompted this replacement, you ask? Well, we're so glad you did. Apparently, she has very little affection for her on-screen nephew, Will Smith. TMZ got in touch with Hubert Whitten following the cast's 15-year reunion back in 2011. She was conspicuously absent from the event and told TMZ exactly why. She called Will Smith an egomaniac, further stating that he has not grown up. She went on to say, "This constant reunion thing will never happen in my lifetime unless there is an apology," which he doesn't know the word. Her replacement, she explained, was largely due to the fact that she wouldn't kiss Smith's superstar booty. While the Fresh Prince of Bel Air's cast member change was a bit more notorious, we've got one we're willing to bet some of you might not have noticed at all. You remember Arrested Development, right? While the latter 2 seasons on Netflix have had their fair share of criticisms, we can all agree that the short-lived series' first 3 seasons are some of the best television has to offer. Perhaps there's an alternative universe out there somewhere where Arrested Development never got canceled. It lives on in its superior life form forever and ever. Hey, we're allowed to dream, aren't we? Don't judge us. And while we're dreaming, can we also suggest a shared universe between Arrested Development and The Fresh Prince of Bel Air?
It's so sad, isn't it?
Think of all the glorious nonsense the Bluths and the Banks could get up to. How has no one pitched this already? How can we make it happen? Quick, someone, start a petition stat, please. Okay, maybe we won't ever end up getting an Arrested Development, Fresh Prince shared universe. That being said, there is one particular similarity these 2 sitcoms have. They both ended up recasting a reoccurring cast member. In Arrested Development's case, however, it wasn't nearly as noticeable. The character that got recast was Anne, George Michael's remarkably forgettable girlfriend. In her first appearance, Anne was portrayed by actress Alessandra Torresani. She was replaced in subsequent episodes by Mae Whitman, who would see the character through the series' completion. If you notice this one, you're crazy. We're not saying we like you any less. We're just saying you've gotta be crazy. Because this one is so subtle, so random, there's no way you could have been able to tell the difference. We're talking about Red Skull. Red Skull made his Marvel Cinematic Universe debut back in 2011 with Captain America: The First Avenger. In that film, he was portrayed by none other than Hugo Weaving, whom we love so very dearly. Red Skull got zapped by the Tesseract, and we didn't see him again until Avengers: Infinity War. Sadly, Hugo Weaving wasn't able to reprise the role. Instead, he was replaced by master impressionist Ross Marquand, who did a bang-up job impersonating Weaving's unmistakable speech patterns. Okay, so contrary to this video's title, here's one casting change we're willing to to bet you did notice, seeing as how it happened in one of the biggest television shows in the history of ever. We'd be seriously concerned if you didn't. We're talking about the character of Daario Naharis in Game of Thrones. When the character was introduced near the end of season 3, it was with Ed Skrein on the role. He had the looks, the temperament, and the physique to pull off the fan favorite, even if he did look a bit too, dare we say, pretty. Then season 4 rolled around and suddenly our beloved Daario was completely different. A haircut, and come to think of it, a hair dye too, plus a brand spanking new beard. Skrein's replacement, Mikhail Heisman, ended up taking the role and running with it, and we wouldn't have it any other way, but why did the recasting have to happen at all? Turns out that Skrein was offered the lead role in the doomed The Transporter Refueled reboot. Ah well, you can't win them all. You'd think the boy who lived's arch nemesis would be picked out from the get-go. After all, Voldemort. Oh no, we said his name. Can we take it back, or is it too late? Forget it. He's not around anymore anyway. We can say his name all we want and there's nothing he can do about it. We hope. Anyway, Voldemort is the Harry Potter series' big baddie. While he spent the first half of the series as a little more than a ghostly being or as a weird talking head, his dark presence was always felt looming over the events of the story. You'd think that when the film series kicked off back in the early 2000s, Voldemort would have been one of the first players cast from the get-go. This wasn't exactly the case though. In the first film, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, depending on what side of the Atlantic you're on, Voldemort was portrayed by Richard Bremer. And when we say portrayed, we really mean he did the guy's voice, because Voldemort wasn't really around, was he? He was just on the back of this dude's head. By the time Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire rolled around in 2005, Ralph Fiennes owned the role, and not a single person had any complaints about it. Oh yeah, here's one we're willing to bet good money none of you noticed. Except we're not willing to actually bet money because, well, yeah, we're not going to take that risk. You guys are all eagle-eyed and crazy. You notice little details that we don't even notice, so better safe than sorry. But this time we're talking about Morgan Matthews, Corey and Eric's little sister from the beloved TV show Boy Meets World. Lily Nixay portrayed the character in the show's first 2 seasons. The character disappeared for a full season before her return, only when she came back, she was played by a completely different person, Lindsey Ridgeway. So whatever happened to the original actress Lily Nixay? Turns out she's been having the time of her life. She spent a hefty chunk of her time going to high school in Scotland, 8 years to be exact. She's also popped up in bit parts on various television shows, including 8 Simple Rules and The Mentalist. Unlike Janet Hubert Witten, who played Vivian Banks and has a tumultuous relationship with her castmates, Nixay ended up coming back for Boy Meets World's reunion and even found the time to play trivia with Will Friedle for Entertainment Weekly. Nixay's replacement, Lindsey Ridgeway, went on to do voice acting, including a stint on the animated series Totally Spies. She stepped out of the acting world to pursue a degree in political science, eventually going on to earn a master's in counseling. For those of us who grew up with Robert Zemeckis' classic time travel flick Back to the Future, the confusing world of recasting isn't necessarily a new thing. Thankfully, Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd never jumped ship, but Marty McFly's girlfriend Jennifer was one of the first to go. The actress, Claudia Wells, only portrayed Jennifer in the first Back to the Future film. She was replaced by Elizabeth Shue in the film's 2 sequels, though the transition is smooth enough that you hardly notice. They even reshot the ending of the first Back to the Future for the beginning of Back to the Future Part 2. Dedicated much? So what caused this recasting? Drama on set? Tensions between actors? Turns out it was none of the above. In fact, the real answer is actually very sad. Claudia Wells had to give up the role for the sequels in order to take care of her sick mother, who had been diagnosed with cancer. While this was unfortunate, Wells did get another chance to portray Jennifer. Telltale Games, the company responsible for the likes of the Walking Dead video game and The Wolf Among Us, brought Wells back for their Back to the Future video game. And hey, while we're on the subject of Back to the Future, here's another bit of casting information you might not have known. Did you realize Michael J. Fox wasn't the original actor cast in the role of Marty McFly? Yeah, that's right, people. Originally, Marty was going to be played by Eric Stoltz. Stoltz made his big screen debut in the 1982 film Fast Times at Ridgemont High. The young actor was involved for about 6 weeks of principal photography. In fact, you can find some footage of his performance online. So what exactly happened there? Turns out that while Stoltz's performance was solid, it wasn't exactly what director Robert Zemeckis was looking for. Zemeckis noted that Stoltz lacked the comedy chops to really make the role of Marty McFly work. When the opportunity to work with Michael J. Fox presented itself, Zemeckis and his crew, prompted by Steven Spielberg himself, ended up recasting the role. Seeing as how they were already so far into production, this was a major shift, but I'm sure it's one that we can all agree that worked out in spades. This next entry on our list is one of the more bizarre casting shifts that we've ever seen. And for this one, we're willing to bet money you never even noticed it. Oh yeah, that's right. Now you know we mean business. We're talking about the character of Bolivar Trask in the X-Men films. Hold on a minute, you say, Bolivar Trask? As in the Bolivar Trask portrayed by Peter Dinklage in X-Men Days of Future Past? That is correct, ladies and gentlemen. Would you believe us if we told you that Trask made an appearance earlier in this franchise? Specifically, X-Men 3, The Last Stand? We know, we don't want to talk about X-Men 3 either, but bear with us a second here. In X-Men 3, Trask is portrayed by Bill Duke. As you can no doubt tell from these images, Duke and Dinklage have very little in common. But hey, Duke and Dinklage could make for a fantastic 90s sitcom title. Can someone make that a thing? Oh, and then while you're at it, can you explain how exactly both of these guys are supposed to be Bolivar Trask in the same universe? And here's another recasting we're willing to bet none but the staunchest, most devoted fans will have been aware of. We're talking about the character of Meg in Family Guy. Did you even know that for one whole season, Meg was played by a completely different person? That would be one Lacey Chabert, star of such hit films as Mean Girls and Lost in Space. What's that? You don't consider Lost in Space a hit film? Are you kidding? Just look at this thing. It's, well, yeah, guess we can't argue with you there. Okay, moving on. As we were saying, Lacey Chabert was the original voice of Meg in Family Guy.
Who cares about food? Now we'll never be able to afford my lip injections!
But then all of these pesky scheduling conflicts got in the way. Beyond her crazy hectic Party of 5 shooting schedule, she was also going to school too. Good lord, is there anything Lacey can't do? As a result, Meg's part went to Mila Kunis in 2000.
I'm home. You're all my bitches now.
And once again, did you notice the difference? Ah, come on, no you didn't. Don't lie to us. Richard Donner's 1978 classic Superman ended up being a major success and paving the way for the entire comic book genre. That being said, it wasn't without its more than fair share of production woes. Originally, Superman 1 and Superman 2 were shot back to back, but when the budget escalated and production went over schedule, tensions between Donner and the film's producers Alexandra and Ilya Salkind boiled over. The studio decided to cease production and cobble together everything they had for the first movie. The hope was to recoup some of their losses before the production lost any more money. Thankfully, Superman was a massive hit for Warner Bros. So did they high-five Donner and bring him back to finish shooting number 2? Nope, they fired him and replaced him with director Richard Lester. Lester had to reshoot a solid chunk of Superman 2 in order to claim it as his own. The big catch? A few of the cast members didn't want to return without Richard Donner at the helm. Namely one, Gene Hackman as the villainous Lex Luthor. Hackman refused to come back for the reshoots. Thankfully, there was enough footage from the Donner shoot that Lester was able to work around these difficulties. Pay close attention to the film though. You'll note that in a number of scenes, Lex Luthor's back is to the camera. In that voice, it kind of sounds like Hackman, but is it really? Turns out someone was hired to double Hackman in certain scenes, and another actor was hired to do voiceover work. We're going to go out on a bit of a limb here and speak some truths you might not be ready for. Adam West, Burt Ward Batman television series from the 60s is one of the greatest shows ever. Seriously, we're not joking. We know it might be hard for you to accept in a post-Frank Miller, post-Tim Burton, post-Christopher Nolan world, but Batman being funny actually isn't a bad thing at all. Unless we're talking about Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. That's a completely different story. And yeah, you know what? Let's just leave it there. But the 1960s Batman series is genuinely hilarious.
Perhaps another time might be more appropriate for that, Robin.
Fueled by Adam West and Burt Ward's infectiously energetic and enthusiastic performances, the supporting cast was just as effective, with new villains every week. The amazing Burgess Meredith as the Penguin, Frank Gorshin as the Riddler, Cesar Romero as the Joker. You've even got Vincent Price in the mix as Egghead. Egghead, what is even happening right now? But one of the most memorable villains in Batman's rogue galleries, no matter which version of the character it is Catwoman. And while Julie Newmar is perhaps one of the most iconic actresses to play Catwoman, she wasn't the only one who played this iteration. You also had Lee Merriweather, who took up the role in the series' final adaptation when Newmar was unavailable. Season 3 saw actress Earth Kitt take on the role. Regardless of who was playing the role, it was always memorable. The original Thor featured slightly larger roles for Lady Sif in The Warriors 3. In fact, many a fan lamented their reduced involvement in the subsequent sequels. Not to mention the fact that Lady Death just offed them all in Thor Ragnarok without sparing a second glance. In the first Thor, the role of Fandral went to Josh Dallas. Originally, Zachary Levi had been cast in the role. Unfortunately, his shooting schedule with the television series Chuck prevented him from being involved in the project. Josh Dallas took on the role in Levi's stead. Ironically, when the time came to return for Thor: The Dark World, Dallas found himself in a similar predicament to Levi's. His show Once Upon a Time had become a huge hit, preventing him from returning to the realm of Asgard. Levi got his chance to take on the role, only to meet a quick demise in Thor's third solo outing. Woo! One of the most notorious recastings in the history of television is none other than Bobby Draper in the TV series Mad Men. Bobby Draper was the son of the series' main character Don Draper, played by the impeccable John Hamm. This character was played by no less than 4 different actors. Hey, it's a tough world out there for a child actor. At the start, the character was played by Maxwell Huxaby and was recast in season 1 with Aaron Hart taking over the role. By season 3, a brand new actor had taken on the infamous mantle of Bobby Draper, Jared S. Gilmore. While he lasted a couple of seasons, by season 5, he was replaced by Mason Vale Cotton. There were a number of conflicting reasons given for this enthusiastic bout of recasting. One of the actors in particular, Jared Gilmore, suggested January Jones was to blame. In an interview with TV Guide, he stated, "Be careful around January. She's not as approachable as the others.
Stop it.
She's really serious about what she does. Everyone else is so nice." Kiernan Shipka, the actress who played Bobby's older sister Sally, even ended up making a list of all the actors who played her little brother through the years. The best part? She dubs them with names like Pillowface Bobby and Slurpee Bobby. Did anyone else notice Bobby's recasting through the years? Probably. Did anybody care? Not at all. Sorry, Bobby. You know, when it comes to recasting roles, all the people behind the scenes seem desperate not to acknowledge the change. We have to give major props to the shows that not only acknowledge it, but even make it a running gag in their series.
You know, Miss Banks, since you had that baby, there's something different about you.
Such is the case with Roseanne. The role of the older sister Becky was played by Leslie Goranson from seasons 1 through 4. But when Goranson left the show to pursue her college degree, she was replaced by Sarah Chalky. In an even odder change of pace, the two actresses traded the role back and forth depending on their schedules. And the best part of all, the writers made it a big part of the show.
I mean, look at us. We could be the same person.
There are constant references to Becky looking different, or how she's completely changed from the last time the family saw her. It's a simple thing, but it ends up providing some great gags. So, how do you feel about these recastings? Did they make sense? Are there any in particular that still annoy you? Any we might have missed that deserve a mention? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're at it, be sure to subscribe to our channel too. That way, you can keep up with all the great content we're churning out daily.